Just recently, I picked up the Gulikit KK3 Max, and for the last week, I've been using nothing but this controller on my PC, Switch, and my Steam Deck. And I have never been so impressed with the controller, I mean, ever. There are so many features packed into this controller that you don't see on any other controller out there. I think we finally found the controller that was designed to adapt to your playstyle. And I also believe that I found a dongle that allows you to use this controller on your Xbox One, which is something we can't say for the 8BitDo Ultimate. Let's take a closer look. And any Xbox gamer, when you first glance at this, is gonna notice this looks really similar to an Xbox controller. One of the main features and why people buy these Gulikit controllers, why people buy the 8BitDo Ultimate, something that the damn Xbox controller still hasn't adapted, is Hall effects joysticks, which apparently won't drift. Like this special edition Gears of War Xbox controller that has a mean drift. The Hall effects joysticks on the Gulikit 3 are simply just amazing. They're a blast to play with. They feel really well constructed. The motion of the sticks are really fluid. It's just a little bit tighter than the Xbox One and the 8BitDo. It snaps right back to center really fast, whereas this one hesitates a little and kind of feels a little cheap. And as for the 8BitDo, they're good Hall effects sticks on this controller as well, but these are just a notch above. The Gulikit has this really cool light up circle around it. It gives it a really cool effect, and it also has a light up centered logo, which, I mean, they all kind of do that. Now, your action buttons are really similar to your Xbox One. Doesn't take much to actuate them, and they don't go all that far down. The 8BitDo Ultimate has a little bit of a longer press, and they just feel just a little bit stiffer on the 8BitDo Ultimate. Now, in the center of the controller, you have most of all the input buttons, I guess you can call them that you would see on any Nintendo Switch controller, your plus, your minus, your capture button, and your home button. But right in the very center, there's two buttons that are different or specific to this controller, and that is the settings button, which looks like a cogwheel, which there are a ton of settings that you can change directly from the controller. I haven't seen anything about any software. There is also another button which looks like a icon for a Windows file system. I don't know why they went with that. It's kind of stupid. But anyway, this is called the autopilot gaming button. Essentially, it's a macro button. Personally, when they were designing the Gulikit Kingkong 3, I think they wanted to keep the word subtle in mind. From the subtle, short, light presses of the action buttons to the very fluid motion of the analog sticks to the actual bumper buttons, which have a very light press themselves. That button doesn't go that far down before it actuates and then pops back up. Unlike the Xbox One, which kind of has a cheap feeling. Now granted, this controller's kind of going out, but it just has this plasticky feel. And then you got the 8BitDo Ultimate, which just seems like you have to press it really far down, and it takes its sweet time popping back up. Now, for the trigger buttons, I'm not saying they're bad. They're not bad by any means, but I kind of feel like holding the controller like this, and since these trigger buttons are not tapered like the Xbox One controller or the Xbox controller, it kind of doesn't feel as comfortable. If you pull your fingers towards the back, it makes it a little better, and just press the edge of the buttons. But when you look at something like the 8-Bit Do Ultimate and their triggers, which have kind of a swoop flat shape, well, not really flat if it's swooped, you idiot, but anyway, it just feels a little more comfortable, especially holding them at the back here, just like I told you to do on the Gulikit 3. And they're a little bit more springy than these. When I first got this controller out of the box, I pressed down and I felt micro switches, and instantly I was pissed and disappointed. But then I read the manual, and honestly, coolest thing I've ever seen on a controller. The only time I've ever seen it on a controller, maybe the Gulikit 2 had this, I didn't have that controller. There is a switch on the back of the controller. If you push that switch to the side for either of the triggers, it's now analog. Tell me that's not cool. I have options.
Download an app on your cell phone.
Thanks.
Then trust me.
No. Another thing I want to note though while we're on the triggers is that it seems like it takes an awful long time before the button actually activates. Like, it's really close to the housing before the button activates. And when it comes to the Xbox One controller, it's about a half press down. The Gulikit also comes with these back buttons, which remind me of the Xbox Elite controller. Now, when you first get the controller, these buttons are not attached. They're inside the box. You have to attach them yourself. They're made of aluminum, which I think is pretty nice. I personally think while holding the controller, it's not uncomfortable per se, but they feel weird to me. I don't see myself using these buttons too often. Honestly, at this moment, I can't even think of what I would use these buttons for. Let me know what you would actually reprogram to these buttons in the comments down below. You don't normally see this impressive amount of compatibility with controllers, but the Gulikit 3 is compatible with the Nintendo Switch, PC, Mac, Android, and apparently with this dongle that Gulikit sells, it's also compatible with the Xbox One, which is something I would have loved to have seen with the 8-Bit Do Ultimate. But my question is, does this thing actually, really, does it actually work? Oh man, you gotta be kidding me, it don't work? Oh. Wait, you mean if I read directions, I would have realized that all you have to do is hook an Xbox controller via USB to the dongle, and then it works?
That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely no cord. What's up with you, Xbox?
The Gulikit KK3 Max is the best of all worlds. Compatible with multiple systems, probably the best sticks that I have ever used on any other controller before now, interchangeable action buttons, hybrid triggers, and those back buttons as well if you're into that sort of thing. This is plain and simply the best controller that I have ever used, and probably gonna be my only controller from here on out. Maybe. Now, one thing I forgot to mention in the video was the D-pad. I am not fond of the overall design. I don't know why we keep going away from the traditional D-pad you see on the Xbox One or the 8-Bit Do Ultimate controller, which is pretty similar to the D-pad that was used back in the NES days. That D-pad just happens to secure your thumb in the middle, and allows your thumb to slide back and forth without feeling like it's gonna slip off the D-pad, which is not what this guy does. Now, it's not all bad. It does give you the option to change between 4 direction and 8 direction, and it gets the job done. It's just not as good as the traditional one. In a future video, we're gonna be taking a look at all the features of the Gulikit KK3 Max and all the settings that you can do directly from the controller, because there's no software, at least I didn't find any. If you're interested in that, you know what to do. As for now, I'll see you in the next one. Blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you what you said. Hey guys, instead of staring at my ugly mug, why don't you go ahead and check out one of our other videos? 1, 2, I'll wait. My busted face ain't going nowhere.